What's the haps? I'm Meroka, and today I want to talk about the top 10 games of the decade. It's 2020, it's a new decade, it's a big deal, I guess. The done thing is a decade retrospective, right? So I want to take a look back at the best games of the past 10 years. These things are weird to do though. First, you're quite likely to be biased towards more recent titles, which are fresh in your mind. And second, it's also very easy to fail to appreciate how dang long 10 years is. Mass Effect 2 and Red Dead Redemption both launched in 2010, so they're both contenders, which is a really good way to make me feel old. And Final Fantasy XIV, it's amazing to think they've only made one more Final Fantasy game in the last decade. Super Meat Boy is 10 years old. That definitely feels older. Anyway, crippling near midlife crisis aside, here's the official, definitive 10 best games from the last 10 years. Coming in at number 10, Wildstar. The star which shines twice as bright burns half as long. This world was not good enough for the likes of Wildstar. A beautiful world that was a pleasure simply to be in, with fun, polished classes, engaging combat and a compelling story. Sadly destined to failure by the misguided driving idea that all MMO players primarily wanted hardcore raid content. So now nobody gets to play it. In at number 9, it's Chroma Squad. Go Power Rare! Chroma Squad. A love letter in all the right ways to the goofy fun that is Power Rangers. It's a fun strategy RPG with catchy tunes, gorgeous pixel art, and hilarious writing, all whilst fighting epic battles against ridiculous kaiju. It doesn't outstay its welcome, and it's an absolute joy throughout. Number 8, Life is Strange. It's a rollercoaster ride of emotion. If you know me, you'll know I love a good story, and they don't come much better than this. It is hurt slightly, as so many narrative games are, by the simple binary choice of ending, which is not really affected in any way by your choices up to that point. But it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And if you don't think following the lives of supernatural Midwestern teenage girls can make a great journey, you need to think again. Coming in at number 7, A Hat in Time. I described this at the time as pure joy from start to finish, and I will stand by that. The visuals, the sound, and the highly polished platforming allow this to stand up very comfortably even against classic Nintendo titles. The different zones all play out in very different ways, each with their own mini narrative arc, which always keeps things fresh, and then there's even modding support to keep you going long beyond the base game. At number 6, Valhalla. I suspect I'm probably more drawn to this game than most because of the drinks theme, and drinks are very much my passion, but there's a lot to love even if you're not a drinks nerd like me. The characters are all immensely likeable, even the absolute worst ones. The soundtrack is excellent, and you get to play DJ on every level. Plus there are corgis, including a rad corgi and a Metal Gear corgi. Also Dana Zane is best girl, and that is a fact. At number 5, it's Slime Rancher. Come on, I'm not sure what you could possibly find to dislike about Slime Rancher. It's a joyous, wiggly delight about escaping from it all and starting a farm on a distant planet with only the most adorable creatures for company. Some of the higher ranks at endgame can get a bit grindy, but they're not essential at all, and the huge amount of hidden secrets to find and automation to build will keep you going for a good long while. At number 4, it's Sea of Thieves. After navigating rough waters at launch, it's been smooth sailing for Sea of Thieves ever since. Regular and frequent content updates have grown the game far beyond its original scope, with endless things to see, find, and do out on the oceans. The anniversary update brought a huge chunk of story content, with yet another narrative arc beginning to unfold as of November's update. The future looks very bright indeed for the game, and anyone who dismissed it back at the start, I would urge to take a second look. In at number 3, Outer Wilds! This is one I feel I might be biased towards just due to how recently I played it, but what an experience! You're given a spaceship and sent up to explore a whole solar system. No real instruction or direction, just go explore. But no matter where you start, you'll find yourself going down fascinating rabbit holes trying to unravel mysteries, not merely of history, but of the universe. An incredibly compelling game, one that's very hard to tear yourself away from, or even to stop thinking about. At number 2 is Monday Night Combat and Super Monday Night Combat. I'm going to group the two together because they're both pretty intrinsically connected, but it is yet another game sadly gone the way of the dodo. Well, I mean, I guess technically Monday Night Combat still has private servers available, but honestly, nobody is playing. Monday Night Combat was one of the first, maybe even the first, to mix up the MOBA format into something different and much more accessible. A MOBA, but a third-person shooter with a great future sport theme and a hilarious commentator. I had a great time playing this thing, but it was unfortunately marked by the curse of the indie multiplayer game. Without the marketing available to bring in enough players to sustain it, it was doomed from the start. Number 1! Danganronpa. Picking a game of the decade is no easy feat, and heck, I might change my mind about this list by tomorrow anyway, but right now I feel like Danganronpa is the game that stuck with me the most in the past 10 years. If I described Life is Strange as an emotional rollercoaster, Danganronpa will give you narrative whiplash. More twists, turns, and fake-outs than you can possibly handle. It's got a great soundtrack, it has great characters, it's a great mystery. It is very much an unforgettable experience. So there you have it. 10 games which, if you haven't played them, you should. Or at least should have, while you could, in the case of at least 2 of them. This wasn't an easy list to pick, and there's more than a few honourable mentions I'd still like to give a hat tip to, not least of which because people will shout at me in the comments if I don't include them, so let's take a look at those. I'd like to mention Spiral Knights and Worlds Adrift for obviously being excellent MMOs. I would like to mention Heaven's Vault, One Shot, To the Moon, Night in the Woods, and Always Sometimes Monsters for being amongst some of the very best storytelling to be found in games. I would like to mention Crypt of the Necrodancer, Risk of Rain, Dust, An Elysian Tale, Donut County, and Freedom Planet for really just generally being very solidly made and quite compelling games. I will mention Portal 2 and A Story About My Uncle for having some of the most entertaining physics-based gameplay. I will mention Jazzpunk for being perhaps the only example around of a comedy game. Not merely a game which happens to have funny stuff in it, but where comedy is actually at the heart of everything in the game. I will mention Battleborn for trying really, really hard to be Monday Night Combat. Ah, bless them. They would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for that meddling Blizzard. So, did I miss anything? Probably. Let me know in the comments what else I should have included. I'm absolutely not going to concede that you're right, but you'll feel better for telling me. Thanks for watching, I hope you've had a great decade, and here's to the 20s!